Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer. Welcome to the Wasteland, my weekly show where I take a deep dive into a particular film, and we're hitting peak Carpenter here. And also to tip my hand a little bit, this is my favorite John Carpenter movie, and I have a very special guest, Rod. Thank you so much for coming on.
Always a pleasure to be here, Shane. I have to start with this, Shane. You know I have to complain again about this because God damn it, we should be talking about David Fincher.
Rod is still mad about who won the tournament.
I am mad.
Rod's still mad about how this tournament was won. And we could all blame my brother, Ethan Kanto. And if you want to see why, you could go watch my episode about Halloween, because that was the only reason John Carpenter won this tournament. So
Pissed at your brother. I haven't even met the guy. I'm mad at him.
just so that could happen. Um, also, Ethan thought we were going to talk about a bunch of Halloween movies. I'm like, no, John Carpenter only directed one of them. So it's like one episode.
You know
I'm
what?
like,
That made me feel better. Okay, I'm not angry anymore.
and then I had to, and then I quoted John Carpenter himself. They really shouldn't have made any more of these movies, but I'm not going to complain about my royalty checks. So, John Carpenter telling it like it is since the 1970s. He's not wrong. He probably shouldn't have. But he makes a lot of money off of those royalties. They're never ever gonna stop making Halloween movies because another fan like David Gordon Green and Danny McBride are just gonna roll up and be like, but what if I made another Halloween?
We don't
Rob
talk about that.
Zombie did it, they did it, somebody else will do it.
And here's what I'll
People
say, Shane,
uh,
about that Halloween sequel trilogy. That first one was actually really good. I liked that first Halloween in 2018. That
I
one was
do
a lot of fun.
too.
It was a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. And then if I had to hear Evil Dies Tonight one more time, I think I was going to put a screwdriver in my head. Just like, is it though? Does it? I don't think so. I think all of you died tonight. And that's exactly how that movie ended. So sorry for the spoilers. So, but there you go. But yeah, we're going to be talking about a horror remake that John Carpenter did. It's The Thing, which was a remake of The Thing from Another Planet. But for those who haven't tuned into the show before, we have three segments. We start with coming attractions, then we get to our feature film, and then we have some recommendations for you. But before we jump into that, Rod, would you like to shamelessly plug anything before we get started?
Well, first of all, Shane, I thought we were talking about the thing from the Fantastic Four, hence the Avengers and the Marvel merch I have on. So wrong episode, Shane. Wrong episode.
Hashtag bring back Michael Chiklis.
But yes, you can find you can find me at the Cinema Gallery on Instagram. That's the Cinema Gallery with three L's. And well, I have to be grouped down to that. You can find me on my podcast with my good friend Benjamin Saunders. Uh, the Infinity Film Podcast. You can listen to us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you can find your podcasts. And you can find us on Instagram. Stay up to date on what we've got coming out every Friday. And Shane was just on an episode with us not too long ago, last week, actually,
Yeah.
talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
And
So,
maybe or maybe I won't be back. I don't know.
yeah, we have to figure that one out.
I'm
TBD.
waiting. I'm waiting on the if I'll get that invite back again, but we'll find out. But the
Oh,
most important thing is Rod got the invite for this show and he is here. And Rod, if Secret Wars comes out, Michael Chiklis is in it. I'm messaging you on Instagram.
yes. I will literally pull out my phone in the middle of the movie and be like, Shane, it happened.
Like, oh my God, Chris Evans is back, except he's Johnny Storm. Can you imagine? And they just
That actually isn't, I wouldn't be surprised if
no,
that
I
happened.
wouldn't be surprised about that either. That seems like just 100% something that they would try to do.
especially if the Russos come back. Yeah, it's happening. It's
We'll
happening.
see. But our coming attractions, it's the beginning of March, March 3rd. This seems to be a jam packed month of movies. This might be the most exciting month of movies this particular year because there's something big every weekend.
Yep.
And at first, I thought there was only one big thing this weekend. Well, debatably, it still might be one big thing. I guess
Yeah,
it
it
depends
is.
on how much you like Guy Ritchie. But, Rod, what movie are you most excited about for this weekend?
Yes, it's the threequel to the Creed franchise. It's Creed 3, Creed Part 3. Shane, this is my number four most anticipated film of the year. I am extremely hyped for this movie to come out. I that first Creed movie, Shane, it's still one of the best sports movies ever made.
Mhm.
I thought Creed 2 was very, very solid. I loved that movie a lot. Not as good as the first. I think some of the fighting sequences weren't up to par with the first
It
one, but the
made me give a
drama,
crap about the Dragos. And I'm like,
yeah,
how dare you, movie? What are
yeah,
you doing to me?
exactly. But I thought what maybe the fighting was lacking in Creed 2, it upped the drama. I thought the family drama was a
Mhm,
lot better in the sequel, just because of the story that was being told. So
mhm.
I'm looking forward to this third one. Jonathan Majors, who I've raved about plenty on my podcast, and we talked about a lot on the Quantum Mania episode. This is his year. He's going to have the Ortega year. This is going to be his year, Shane. He's got three movies coming out. He's got this. He's got Quantum Mania, and then he's got Magazine Dreams coming out hopefully
Mhm.
later this year too, which I'm just nothing but positive things coming out of Sundance. So I I know there's a lot of behind the scenes drama because of Sylvester Stallone and him not being involved. Look, I love Sly, but I'm looking forward to seeing what Michael B. Jordan does behind the camera,
Yep.
and I'm just looking forward to just a really good time at the movie, Shane.
Me too. I'm really excited for Creed 3. I'm just concerned about the people who won't be able to survive sitting and watching him and Jonathan Majors on screen at the same time.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that boxing fight's going to be a little much, too much for people to handle.
yeah.
That is a lot of Michael B. Jordan, Jonathan Majors right there,
Oh yeah, oh
which
yeah.
I can't wait for that fight because they both look like beasts. Like they're going to throw down. And, you know, it is going to be interesting seeing the first film in this franchise without Rocky in it. But, like, they kind of wrapped up his story in the
That's what
last
I'm saying. Like,
movie.
why are we complaining all too much? Like, Rocky's story wrapped up beautifully in Creed 2. I feel like really Creed 1. He didn't have to come back for Creed 2. To be honest with you.
Well, generally, yeah. I do
There was nice
appreciate that
closure.
they like closed the loop with his son
Right.
at
That's what I'm saying.
least.
There was good closure there.
And then I guess well, obviously I understand where Sylvester Stallone's coming from because like this is his baby.
Oh, absolutely.
But like I feel like it's going to be interesting seeing Adonis outside of the shadow of Rocky. There's no Rocky involved. This is very personal, it seems like, and I can't wait for that drama. And Michael B. Jordan and Jonathan Majors are two of the best actors working today.
Yep.
So time to throw down. Now, what my pick is, which is debatably a big movie, depending on it has Jason Statham in it.
Of course it
It
does.
it has Aubrey Plaza in it. Damn, it has Hugh Grant in it. This is Operation Fortune. And yes, this movie actually still exists and is getting released in a theater because this got shelved like
Just one theater.
this got shelved like 14 months because the henchmen in it are Ukrainian and that was a bad look at the beginning of last year. They're like, oh
Hmm.
crap. Come
Yep.
on, you gotta fix that in a month. Just change them to Russian in post and would have been fine. But yeah, all this time later, and that was the weirdest thing. They didn't even have like a build up to this. They're just like in 3 weeks, bam, just drop it. But I can't not be excited after The Gentleman and seeing this cast put together. And honestly, I'll watch anything Hugh Grant's in at this point
Yeah.
because post Paddington 2, just like everything is gold that he touches. It's like, play with me, Raymond. Like Fletcher was such a fun character in the well, like 99% of the characters were fun characters in The Gentleman.
Hmm.
I need more Colin Farrell in a tracksuit. Telling
Colin
people,
Farrell was so good in that
make
movie.
it sharp, cut me with it.
You know
Just
who I also liked in that movie too? Doesn't get enough credit. Henry Golding was actually really good in that movie too.
he
I liked him a lot.
was.
I liked him a lot.
And like Jeremy Strong was in it, and just
Right.
I wanted everything Matthew McConaughey was wearing. I'd wear any of that, to be honest. And good for Guy Ritchie making me care about Charlie Hunnam. So I thought he had the
Yeah.
charisma of a potato after Pacific Rim, to be honest.
You know, I'm looking forward to this movie. I have ticket. I have a ticket to go see it on Sunday. I'll see anything with Guy Ritchie. I think he's been kind
Mhm.
of on a hot streak. I like the lad a lot more than other people did. I thought Aladdin was a lot of fun. The
Mhm.
Gentleman Shane was just a blast. That was just stupid fun.
Mhm.
Stupid good fun.
Yeah.
And Wrath of Man, I actually like. That was
Mhm.
actually my first movie back in theaters. I still remember that. That was my first movie back after
That was
being in
intense.
lockdown. Shit, that's why I was just saying that to Ben yesterday when we were recording our episode. I was like, that movie was a lot darker and a lot more grim than I anticipated it being.
Which is why I'm not as surprised about The Covenant coming out. But as you mentioned before we started recording, we already saw it. So why need to go to the movies? Which could go on a whole entire thing about movie trailers just giving way too much. But you know, there are two interesting films coming out. There's a couple other things like Children of the Corn prequel movie, which nobody ever asked for.
Yeah,
But you
I
know,
forgot that was coming
we're
out this weekend.
we're getting it anyway.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
produced by Shutter. I'm like, Shutter, you do better than this. What are you talking about?
Hey, I'll give Shutter this. I like the movie they came out with last year. I think it was it Watcher? I think it was Watcher. I think that was a Shutter production, right?
Ooh, Watcher was great.
That was a lot of
That
fun.
that was a great thriller. It came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But no, I'm trying to defend Shutter. I'm like, you're better than this. Like, why are you putting out a prequel to Children of the Corn?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Don't look at
But
me, Shane. Don't look at me.
well, I
I
won't.
didn't ask for
And nobody did. But to get into our feature of the week, which is The Thing, which this is about a group of researchers in Antarctica who are hunted by a shape-shifting alien who is quite grotesque and has some of the most impressive practical effects I've ever seen put in a movie. But what's the real villain? The alien or paranoia? And now, Rod, what interested you in picking this one to come on for the episode?
it. The fact that we weren't talking about Gone Girl. So I had to, you know,
Had to settle for something.
I had to settle for something. No, when you asked me to, come on talk about the thing, I was like, yeah, sure, because I actually have only seen the awful Mary Elizabeth Winstead film in 2011, 10.
That's the see prequels. That's the prequel about the other research facility, the Norwegian one.
I don't
That
know. I forgot that
gets
movie, Shane. It's really bad.
we don't need to remember that movie. We could just, watch this movie and not have to get a whole entire backstory when we already get like this grotesque aftermath of it. But I guess, Ron, what are some of your general thoughts on the thing?
So I actually just watched this for the first time a couple days ago. And I have to say, I understand the hype. This movie was a lot of fun. Now I'm not in love with it. I
Mhm.
don't. I'm not. I'm the camp of like maybe best science fiction movie of all time. I feel like if I had seen this earlier in my life, Shane, I may have been on that path of like hell yeah. But this was a lot of fun, and I think for me, there's like three things I really took away from this. One, you kind of mentioned already, the practical effects. Oh my God, for like that era, for that time, Jesus. I mean, Shane, the movie looks great. The effects
Yep.
look great. Two was because I knew nothing about this movie. So
Mhm.
the second thing was kind of like it's almost like a mystery. Like, okay, who's the thing and who is it?
Mhm.
And like one of my favorite scenes is when he's going around testing blood, testing their blood. I was like, oh my God. Like I'm on the edge of like my bed. I'm like, holy crap, what's gonna happen here?
You're
What's gonna
just like
happen?
he's about to stick the metal into the blood, and you're just like,
Well, yeah, because it always Carpenter's this thing where it cuts back to the character's face, and it's like I feel like I'm like that too. I'm like, I'm not the thing. I'm not the thing either. Don't
am
test my
I?
blood.
So
And
this
then I
movie has you
like
questioning.
and then I like how it's not really a happy ending.
It's a stark ending.
It is, and I don't know if we're getting the spoilers, but I like kind of how grim it leaves off.
Well, we'll definitely get into talking about the ending because there's a quite a interesting bit of interpretation that you can get out of that ending or not.
Okay,
Which that's the thing, because well, actually, now I want to start a counter of how many times we say the thing uh, during this episode. Because I'm pretty sure you said like the second thing, and I'm like, well, there's one. I did it myself. But going back to like your first point, like apparently the special effects guy had to check in to a hospital when this was over because he was working like 20-hour days and living off of soda and candy.
Jesus.
I was just like, what a wreck. Because like trying to get these special effects ready, because like these are intricate and some of them are huge. Like the giant amalgamation at the end of the movie that you're so it's just like had McCready, who, let's be real here, Kurt Russell gives one of the best line readings in the history of cinema right there. Giant monster just screamed at us like, well, F you too. just
I love
dynamite at.
that. That was my favorite moment of the entire movie. I was like, bravo, Kurt. Bravo.
That's why I got Kurt Russell. Just
And
like,
like, there's so many times saying to when I'm watching this, I'm like, Wyatt? No, Kurt. But
right? This,
Wyatt?
I think this is the most he ever looks like his son,
Mm-hmm.
because Wyatt Russell has that beard a lot and with the hair and everything, which you could remake this, which you shouldn't again, but you could. And I feel like you could easily just like slip Wyatt Russell in there if you really wanted to. Um, what a turn in a career that would be. Wyatt Russell just remakes all of his dad's movies. It just stars
With
it
Danny
all.
McBride.
Oh my god. Danny McBride's the thing. I'd see it. Only if Kenny F. Powers gets to be one of the people at the installation. Can you just imagine? But the special effects, like the spider head, that is, well, like even in movie, they're like, what the?
Mm-hmm.
And just like that was perfect. The chest,
Oh.
that was grotesque.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, especially from before they even had the spider head, the head coming up out of the body with it just like
Mm.
out at you, and you're just like, my god, just the special effects are out of this world. And the thing is, I don't think if you remade this, you wouldn't they wouldn't do all that. And I think it would kill it. Like it wouldn't be the same. I don't want to see all this CGI. Um, but it's so incredibly put together that way. And then this movie is so full of paranoia from
Yeah.
start to finish. And one of these days, I decided not to do it this watch, but I want to map it out. And I want to try to figure out when everybody became the thing. And
Ooh, that's interesting. Yeah.
because like it's a complicated, like I've probably seen this movie 6 7 times at this point, and just like you notice little things every time that you watch it and like peeling back the layers. One of the big mysteries, like when did Blair become the thing? Which also, Wilford Brimley rolling up in here without a mustache. I'm just like the I got diabetes guy from the 90s and 2000s. And the cast too. There's so many great character actors in this movie because like obviously Kurt Russell's the star. Easy. Makes
Keith
sense.
Richard.
Uh Keith David.
Oh, man, I
Uh
said Keith Richard. I said
I didn't remember the Rolling Stones being in this. Keith
Keith David.
David's
Thank you, sir.
great.
Yeah.
So great. Well, he's great in They Live too. Like he's really good in his work in John Carpenter movies. He's a great addition here. Um Wilford Brimley is intimidating. Like when he's going nuts
Hmm.
in the radio room, just like which he did my wife's favorite thing is like when people run out of bullets and then chuck their guns at people. He's just like just straight chucks it at him. There's definitely one like the first moment he's on screen that you know that he's the thing. He's like, "Hey, I'm okay now." I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, you're not. You're not Blair anymore."
Right.
It's just like, "Nope, I'm gonna slowly walk away."
Yeah, that's the
Um,
thing. I like how in the film you're kind of able to point out, okay, like this guy's probably a thing, this guy's probably a thing. But then, like I said, that going back to that mystery element, it's like, well, Kurt Russell could technically be the thing. Keith David, not Richard, could technically be the thing.
yeah,
I,
which I think if they confirm that McCready was the thing at some point in this movie, it'd break my heart. I don't know if I
mhm.
could ever watch this again. I like that would feel like such a betrayal. I'm like, no. um, but that blood test scene, one of the most tense scenes I think just in movies in general.
I agree.
And what's interesting is so oddly enough, John Carpenter didn't do the score for this movie. He got Ennio Morricone to do the score for this movie, which I'm like, why? Which Ennio Morricone is one of the greatest composers in the history of cinema, but like he even just makes a score that sounds like a John Carpenter score. I'm just like, why'd you get him? There is a piece of music that they cut from the film, and the track's called Bestiality, and it was supposed to be in the blood test scene, and it's heavy strings, and it's like dun, 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 and just keep building and building and building. Quentin Tarantino used it in The Hateful Eight.
Yes, he did.
Yep, because The Thing is one of the biggest influences of The Hateful Eight,
Two
and
very different
also,
movies, but yeah,
huh?
two very different movies, but okay, okay.
Well, if you think about it, it's closed in the snow. You
Yeah.
don't know who anybody really is, and who really is an enemy. And it's playing off those same kind of ideas, and also has Kurt Russell in it. So,
Huh. So it's a
and
spiritual sequel. Got it.
well, and Tarantino being Tarantino's like, can you imagine if we use the song that was supposed to be in the thing in my movie? And it's just like that's exactly how it happened. And and then Quentin Tarantino also made the dumb decision to do the voiceover narration
Mm,
in the middle of that movie, which is
mhm,
the worst part of the movie. It's
mhm.
just like I didn't need to hear your voice, Quentin Tarantino. I have eyes. I could have saw what was going on. Somebody poisoned the coffee. And just like, yes, I see that. Thank you. But anyway, that scene with the blood test works so much better without any music in it. Cause you're just like white knuckling it the whole time. And here's the thing, you have no idea that's gonna work.
Right.
So that could have been a bust. But the second that it screeches and you're just like, what the
Yeah, that
and the
caught me off
whole
guard. Yeah.
And then it's just like the best thing is Keith David's reaction. The couch, and he just get me the F out of here.
He's rocking back and forth. Get me the hell out of here.
Yeah,
Hey.
yeah, just perfect. And it might be the worst part of practical effects in the movie is when the one guy turns into a giant mouth and grabs the other guy and starts whipping him around the room because you
I
can
mean,
tell he's a
come on, though. That
dummy.
was entertaining.
It was hilarious and crazy, but you could tell he's a dummy because
Yeah.
he's just like all over the place. But there's some moments where like the one guy who runs out into the snow and they chase him and he has the giant deformed hands and he just straight up Donald Sutherland's it from the end of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and it's just like, and you're just like, um, that's not right. That's not human. And it's just like torch him. There's so many great moments, and there's definitely a lot of very John Carpenter moments because I feel like John Carpenter's biggest and most effective trademark is POV
Yeah.
directing. And there's a couple of really good moments where that's where you what's Keith David's Childs when he's supposed to be watching the base and there's just that POV shot going through the base. Childs isn't there anymore, and you're just like, where's Childs? And then when do we see Childs again? The very end.
See that at that moment, I was like, he's definitely a thing. He is definitely a thing. He just shows up out of nowhere. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this dude's a thing for sure.
Well, and Kurt Russell's just like, where were you, Childs? Which there's a couple of things to unpack about that final scene is one, and you get you see Kurt Russell's breath just pouring out of his mouth, but you don't really see Keith David's. And you're just like, is that a hint that he's a thing? And then I heard a fan theory that McCready hands him like motor oil to drink and like he doesn't react to it, but like I don't that's obviously speculation to try to test him, but you're just left with it's either they're both human, they're both dead, or if Childs is the thing, he's just gonna freeze.
Right.
And then somebody at some point is gonna find him, bring him back to civilization, and then we're all effed. Either way, McCready's going down with the ship, and that I just love they're just sitting there and there's like doom 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 doom, and it's just that score starts playing, and you're just like, well, there's no happy day today. This
That's
is
why I liked how it kind of leaves you on this grim note of like, well, at least for Kurt Russell's character, we've been kind of following this for this whole journey, sacrificed himself to kind of, save the world, I guess.
Mhm.
How much did he really save? Because it is Child's the thing. Because if he
Mhm.
is, well, Kurt Russell died for nothing.
Yep.
So I but I do like that last conversation. And I'm glad, Shane, that we haven't had a proper sequel yet either. I kind of like it left ambiguous. It's kind of like what it reminded me of, Shane, was Inception. The ending to Inception. Is it a dream? Is it not a dream? Kind
Mhm.
of the same thing here. Is Child's a thing? Is he not a thing?
We
But
don't
like
need it.
exactly, we don't need, I'm glad we didn't get a concrete answer. But it goes into one of my things I don't like about this movie, Shane, and that I like the group of characters. I just think there was maybe one too many of them. I don't know if it was just now they each had a different personality, but I was like, what is it, like eight group of guys we're following, Shane? 7 or 8 guys we've got.
One, two, three, four, five, six, 7, 8, 9,
Let me see.
10, 11, 11. There's 11 named characters in this base. So like there's a lot of people to keep track of. And to be
Exactly.
frank, even after all the times that I've watched this, I'm like, who's that
That's what I'm saying.
again?
Like I'm watching this. I'm like, hold on, I have to go back because who's this person and why they're important? I don't know.
Well, because you have McCready, who
Right.
obviously Blair, Wilford Brimley's character, Childs, Clark is the tall guy with the beard with the dogs, which he's a big part of this whole thing. Knowles is the smaller, younger black guy. Palmer, who is which one is Palmer? Gary's the one who's like in charge,
Right.
like the taller guy. You have Doc Cooper, who's the one who gets his arms bit off by a chest. Um,
Yeah,
and
who's the
then
one? I think it comes out of his chest, right? And then it just like, was that him?
so like the doc doesn't wind up, he doesn't die because of the thing, like he doesn't get turned into the thing or anything like that. He just gets his arms bit off and then he like bleeds out. So like,
Okay.
and then I think Vance is the one who has the heart attack.
Yes, and then the thing comes out, correct?
Yeah, which
Yeah,
we
okay,
had
that's what
no
I'm thinking
idea he
about.
was the thing, and then it's like,
Right. They had their alien moment.
and I think Bennings is the one that runs out and they chase after him, and he does the whole screech thing. Windows, I think, is the one who gets gobbled up by like the giant torso mouth.
I love
Um,
that name Windows. I love that there's a character named Windows in here.
well, that's the thing. They have a lot of fun names and
Mhm.
interesting names and memorable names. It's just that some of the characters aren't as memorable, and it's fair. There's a lot of moving pieces here,
Yeah,
and like there's only like a core of them that like really matter
right.
in the end. But I think it's a very interesting collection of characters, a lot of strong character actors, and the thing is, like John Carpenter never had a budget to have like a complete all-star cast like pop up in a movie. So like it's obviously like he had a good relationship with Kurt Russell after Elvis and Escape from New York. Keith David, I don't know how famous Keith David was at this point. Probably
I don't,
wasn't.
yeah, I don't think he was that big yet, just yet.
I feel like probably the second most famous person in this movie is probably Wilford Brimley, who honestly didn't even have some of his other bigger movies because like he was in The Natural 2 years later and stuff like that. But like it just they did great casting for this. The biggest star is the effects,
Hmm.
obviously, and that's going to be what's lasting. And I feel like this is the best technical film that John Carpenter has made. And it feels the least like you're watching a B movie
Yeah,
because like Escape from New York and Big Trouble in Little China, they feel like cult movies. This feels like a legit horror thriller that they made the most out of a small budget because John Carpenter never got like big budgets for anything, but he is one of those directors he did great work with the very little that he had. And this died at the box office. This came out, I think, the same weekend as E.T.
yeesh.
Yeah. What alien are you gonna go see this weekend?
Wow.
What a
Okay.
crazy, crazy summer of 1982.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, because like this did not do well at the box office, but like I know this one in particular, like this is my second favorite horror film after The Shining. Um, and all about being made to feel perturbed and get a lot of paranoia. But I guess Rod, do you have any other thoughts of things that you wanted to bring up?
No, for a first, I feel like I still need to like decompress this film some more. Shane. It's only been like, maybe 48 hours since I last watched this movie, and I haven't really had time to digest because we kind of just move on to the next movie, right? So,
Yep.
I
Right.
mean, so I want to watch it again because I want to pick up on some things that I missed out on last time. I want to see what I want to do too, Shane, is like go back and rewatch it just so I can see how they're acting this time to see if they're acting, see if they're the thing or not. So I'm
Mhm.
just I like to play that kind of game. The next time I go back and rewatch it, but for a first time, I feel like I'm like late. Very obviously I'm very late to the game, but for my first experience with this, I had a fun time.
Yeah.
I not a whole lot of faults, Shane. I'm not. I wish I came out of it loving it more than I left. Than I really am. Than how I'm feeling right now. But I still
Well,
had a good time.
and I don't know if you'll have the same experience, but this was definitely one of those kinds of movies that like you'll be sitting there and thinking about out of nowhere, like, why'd they act like that?
Hmm.
And like you just have those little bits because this movie is so dense with details, and there's so much to dissect about how the characters interact with each other, how like little details that are shown that pop up. I think like there's even the littlest moments are chilling. I just remember that first moment where it's like, we're gonna have to go up to uh my my loft next, and they're like, why? Well, when I left it 2 days ago, I turned the light off, and it cuts to like that little light on in his thing. I'm just
Mm.
like even just the littlest things, Carpenter knows how to build that tension. And that's one of the most interesting parts of the film because McCready comes back covered in ice and everything is just like, is he?
Hmm.
Isn't he? And I would like to think that that was there to just build up the paranoia because similar to It Comes at Night, the real villain of this movie is paranoia because that's what comes at night.
I mean, look, I think that's one of the strongest elements. That might be the strongest element of the film is that paranoia. And plus adding on top of that, they've been in that base for how long? So, I mean, they're probably all cooped up, ready to go home. And now they got to deal with this situation. It's like, I'd be on edge too, Shane. Shoot.
It's just like everybody's the Dante. I wasn't even supposed to be here today. Or or a Murtaugh. I'm supposed to be retired. I'm supposed to be retiring this week. Which that's the thing. You could tell that there's tension between some of them, and it bleeds over. It has that added tension in there because not everybody's getting along out of 11 people shoved in this thing. Not at all.
No, everyone's getting along. No, 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 no issues.
They really hate the guy that runs the thing. You could definitely tell that they all have some problems with him. And you know, just you hate your boss, and then he might be an alien. So then there's that. Just makes it even worse.
Yeah.
But time to give these folks some recommendations before we wrap up. But Rod, what would you like to recommend?
I almost said human centipede just to piss you off. The
Inside
Fallout,
joke from
inside
before
joke.
we started recording.
I'm recommending. Jesus, it's late. The Fallout, a film that I feel like kind of went under the radar last year, Shane.
Mhm.
And I actually got to watch it 2 years ago at South by Southwest when it was virtual. The one year it was virtual, but then they're like, "Yep, screw you guys. We're just doing it in person." So, um, I watched that in 2021, and then it finally came out on HBO Max last year, and it remained my fifth favorite film of last year, Shane. I love that film to pieces,
Mhm.
and I recommend it because, of course, we're going to see Ortega next week in Scream
Yeah.
6, and Ortega is just on this high, Shane, that just can't be. She can't be stopped right now. She
No.
really can't.
And then they combined her forces with Aubrey Plaza at SAG, and now they're unstoppable. They're gonna
That
curse our
movie,
families for
That movie needs
generations.
that movie or show needs to happen, or Ortega needs to show up in the Agatha Coven of Chaos show.
Get on it, Kevin Feige. What are you doing?
Listen, but Feige knows when an actor or actress is hot right now, he's probably already got something in the works for Ortega. We just don't know what it is yet.
Yep.
But with the Fallout scene, like even Maddie Ziegler, who I'm not like the biggest fan of as an actress,
Mhm.
she was really good in here, like really, really strong. They have her and Ortega have really good chemistry, but
Mhm.
it's this really good look at like trauma after a school shooting.
That opening scene,
It's haunting.
haunting.
It's haunting and it sticks with you.
Mhm.
And Ortega kind of beautifully illustrates that film, just kind of like the acting out, the kind of rebelling, because she's also still a teenager. She's a teenager in high school. So she's
Yeah.
going through a lot. She's got a friend who like is now an activist trying to stop gun, do something about gun control. And she's over here like, look, these situations they affect us differently. And it affected her one way and her friends the other. And she was able to
Mhm.
find solace in Maddie Ziegler and they built this really sweet friendship. And it's a really beautiful coming of age story that just has a lot of traumatic and triggering things in the very beginning. Um, and the ending, something I did not expect to happen, but it kind of illustrates like that trauma is not going to go away anytime soon.
That was a really good movie.
Yeah.
And it's one of the positives of what HBO Max was doing before Discovery was like, we're not putting movies on here. And it's just like, let's throw them out in the theaters with no advertising and see how they do. House Party. Uh,
I still watch House Party. I think it's on HBO Max now, actually.
Probably is.
I've just heard really, really bad things about it.
I did
So
not like it. Did not like
I
it
feel
at
like High
all.
School Me probably would have liked it, but I've just heard nothing but it's just awful. So,
Illuminati confirmed.
oh
Because
Lord. Okay.
that's a goddamn thing in it.
Oh
Um,
Jesus.
so I always like to throw out a couple of recommendations depending on certain things. So like a new film that I watched that I'd like to recommend is which will be coming out soon is Linoleum, which is Jim Gaffigan's new film where he plays like a Bill Nye type who has like his own show, but he's down on his luck. His show gets taken from him, and he tries to build a rocket ship in his garage while dealing with his wife, who wants to leave him, played by Rhea Seehorn. Which getting to see her in anything post Better Call Saul just makes you happy. Jim Gaffigan gives two really good performances because he's doesn't just play the main character either, which is interesting. But it's a strain like it has some Donnie Darko vibes to it in certain ways narratively. Tonal wise, it's not like that. But there's some like interesting ideas that it tries to pull across. But it's a pretty thought provoking and interesting exploration. And Jim Gaffigan gives a really strong turn in this movie. One of my own movies that I rewatched recently for my movie club, it in honor of the Oscars, Best Picture winner, Braveheart, one of the
Um,
daddest movies of all time, all 3 hours of it. And is it historically inaccurate? Hell yeah. Is it basically just
what?
historical fiction? Yeah, but freedom. Yeah,
That's another movie I was late to the game too, Shane. I didn't watch that until my freshman year of college.
well, there you go.
I finally watched it, and that was almost 10 years ago now, but still, Jesus, oh my gosh, and that was almost 10 years ago. I'm getting old. But anyway, yeah, I love that movie.
It's like the manliest double feature of all time is Braveheart and Gladiator.
Ooh, that is a good one. Or Braveheart
It-
and 300.
Dad movie marathon. Just Braveheart, Patriot, Gladiator. Just throw them all out there. Um, and then a movie that I checked off my watch list, which I'll be doing for an episode of Rowan in the Wasteland, which is Blow Up, the Michelangelo Antonioni film. which is about a like fashion photographer who winds up capturing a murder on camera, and starring Vanessa Redgrave, like a very young Vanessa Redgrave is in this, and also what the hell is the actor's name? Uh,
Michael Chiklis. I'm just kidding.
David Hemmings, who will then grow up to be Cassius in Gladiator, the crazy eyebrow guy. Yeah, back in the 60s, he was like a young
Oh shit.
heartthrob. Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay.
So it's an interesting film, and it was the first Antonioni film that I've seen. Also thought it was interesting that this like famous Italian director just makes a whole entire movie in Britain. Uh, She's like, you could have made this in Italy. Why would you take it to London? But like it's an interesting, it definitely takes a while to get to where it's getting, but I thought it was a really interesting film, and I looking forward to checking out some more Antonioni films, and for my wife to make more jokes about his last name.
So Michael Chiklis isn't in this, Shane.
Michael Chiklis needs to get back in the spotlight. He was in that series premiere of Accused that came out on Fox.
Yeah. 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 I'm not watching that.
I didn't realize it was an anthology series. Like every single episode is a whole new story. I'm like, oh, so I only get one episode of Michael Chiklis? Ooh.
Can I recommend a TV show, Shane? I just realized. Can
Sure.
I do I have time to mention a TV show? Okay. Um, if you have Apple TV Plus, I highly, highly recommend. Please, everyone, do yourselves a favor. Watch Shrinking. It is
Yes.
so freaking good.
So good.
Shane, because we're all kind of like, I feel like everyone in pop culture right now, or people who pay attention to pop culture, we're all on this Last of Us hype train right now, and the hype is deserved. I mean, every week,
Mhm.
Shane, it seems like it's another masterpiece of another masterpiece.
Yep.
But I feel like Shrinking has been going under the radar, and it deserves a lot more praise. First of all, you get to see Harrison Ford do karaoke or sort of car, singing in the car, and it's amazing. He's doing things in this show that I think I would never see from Harrison Ford. I think he's just
Yep.
having the time of his life right now. And Jason Segel's I have a warm place in my heart for Jason Segel. I love that dude so much.
He
And
is
he's
such a Muppet in this show.
really
He
is
is
a
indeed a
Muppet.
Muppet of a man.
Oh boy. But yeah, I highly, highly recommend people watch Shrinking. I mean you're watching it, Shane. It's
Oh,
wonderful.
I love every second of that show. Like every second. That cast is amazing. I think I fell in love with Jessica Williams.
Mm,
Oh my God.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love her so much.
Mm-hmm.
And Derek, the husband next door, is one of the funniest minor characters
I
in
yes. I mean he pops
TV.
up in like one scene like every episode, but it's like a such a hilarious scene.
Just him peeing off the peeing off the balcony in the morning. It's like, oh, she takes too long in there every morning. And it's just like, are you peeing out there? It's like, no, I'm talking to him.
But then it's like, yeah, yeah. You mentioned Jessica Williams, but Liz, I love her, and she's got like her own shit. She's dealing with like abandonment issues from her son because her son's off in college. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I love this stuff. It's just so much good stuff in this
So
show.
much. Harrison Ford is killing it right now between that and 1923 just wrapped up this week.
Was that good?
Uh, it's very different than you probably would expect it to be because like half the show is a romance,
Oh, okay.
which was unexpected. Because there's three main storylines in the show, and like the one that they spend an amazing amount of time in is Spencer Dutton, who's off in Africa. after World War One, and he falls in love with like a English woman of status, and like they're trying to get back to Montana, like the whole entire time. They're on a boat, and then they're on another boat, and then they're on another boat, and then they get kicked off of that boat. And it's just like, when the hell are they ever gonna get home? Season two. Um, I swear, because it's only gonna have 2 seasons, and I
Oh,
swear he's gonna show up the last episode and just be like, my God, I've been waiting 17 episodes and 15 episodes for this man to show up at Yellowstone Ranch. Um, but like the actual like main part with the Yellowstone,
mhm.
Harrison Ford's great, Helen Mirren's great, Jerome Jerome Flynn from Game of Thrones, great. Timothy Dalton,
Oh, he's in the show?
he's one of the main, he's like the main antagonist.
Ooh.
He's a mine owner who's just filthy, filthy rich. And he's also a sadist who gets off watching women in pain, and it's very disturbing.
Okay. All right.
And then there's a whole entire other subplot about this young Native American woman who's in a Christian, like Christian missionary school, and then she winds up breaking out and goes on the run, and priests are after her, and they're straight trying to murder her and stuff. And a lot of people die. I'm just like, this feels like a completely other show.
Mhm.
And I think the crappy thing is I feel like the only reason it's part of this show is that they don't have faith that we would watch a whole entire show just about Native American characters running away from Christians.
Hmm.
So they're just like, let me slip that in there in 1923 and you'll watch it. You're just like watching Harrison Ford, and the next thing you know, you're watching this Native American revenge story. Just like, where's Harrison Ford?
I need to get on the Yellowstone hype train. I haven't watched Yellowstone yet, but I've had a couple of friends, including Ben, tell me I need to get on and watch Yellowstone. So I think once I'm done with like the 80 other shows I'm watching, I'll probably get around to finally watching
There you
Yellowstone.
go. But yeah, so most important recommendation here is watch Shrinking.
I agree.
Go
I
do
agree.
it.
All right. Such a
But
good show.
Rod, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Shane. I'm always enjoying being on here. So thank you.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.